Hello, everyone. My name is Morgan Brown. I am the Caregiver Specialist for the Caregiver Program with Baltimore County Department of Aging. On this presentation today, we have the Caregiver Program Manager, Kathleen Koenig-Stoffel, and we have Lynn McCamie. Welcome, everyone. Lynn has been with Baltimore County Department of Aging since 2007. She has been advocating for residents in long-term care facilities as the Ombudsman manager. So thank you all for joining, and without further ado, we can give the presentation over to Lynn.
Hello and good evening to everybody. I am so glad that you are joining us. I want to share a little bit about the Maryland Long-Term Care Ombudsman's program and what it might look like if you were transitioning to an assisted living setting. So first, I've got some information that shares what is an assisted living. I have a booklet over there if anyone is interested in receiving the booklet that actually is put out by the State's Attorney's Office of Maryland. But assisted living is a setting where it can provide care to people who are having difficulty living independently, but don't need the daily nursing services that might be provided in a nursing home. Many of the assisted livings are going to furnish the individual with a place to live, give them meals, provide some assistance to daily activities such as dressing, bathing, eating, and managing medication. That's probably the key word there, assisting, giving people the opportunity to have some level of independence while helping to make sure that some key functions are happening throughout the course of the day for the individuals. Assisted living facilities tend to be a lot less institutional looking than your average nursing home. They may be a part of a larger setting that some people may say is a retirement community, or they may even look like smaller home size facilities. Assisted livings can come in a variety of shapes. Some of them may be small, some of them may be medium size, and some of them might be large. For example, a small size facility may be one that has 1 to 4 beds. A medium size would be considered 5 to 15, and then a large size is 16 plus. We have a few large sizes in our Baltimore County setting. The one thing that also is noted about assisted living is that they're not as highly regulated as nursing homes are. So that tends to be a blessing for some individuals that are looking for more of a communal living or group living type of setting, but not so much of the formal structure that a nursing home might bring to the setting for individuals. Whoops. We do have a short video here. I gave everybody the link and it kind of walks through some things that we're also going to talk about. What does it mean to be in an assisted living setting? That's something that our viewers can look at when you have a little bit more downtime, but we're going to talk about many of those pieces there. I wanted everyone to know as well that there are regulations. When we say there's not as many regulations, there are regulations for assisted livings, and the state of Maryland calls those COMARs. Those settings can be found by just Googling either the link that is there or by putting in the numbers that you see there, 1007 14 is the main nexus of assisted living setting. It does tend to be more of a residential feel. for individuals. It can be a part of, again, a larger campus that's a retirement community that may have independent living, nursing home, or skilled living, as well as assisted living setting. There is supervision that's provided, supportive services. The assistance that's given is usually personalized to the individual. There are health-related services that individuals may receive as well. Many of the activities of daily living are wrapped around how does the individual like to engage in their day? What are some things that's important to them to have activity-wise, meal-wise, socialization-wise, and help-wise? But there is a level of independence that comes along with being in an assisted living setting. So we want everybody to be mindful of that. Assisted living residents do have rights. Some of those rights include a level of privacy, honoring a level of confidentiality, being able to make your own choice. You still are the captain of your ship when you are living in an assisted living setting. That means that they should be asking the individuals, how would you like to see your day? What's important to you in terms of having a very successful and impactful day? There should be a level of safety that's provided for all individuals, security systems, ensuring that staff is there on site. The facility itself should be in good repair and clean. The assisted living should be able to make arrangements for any level of activity that you want to have happen inside the facility as well as outside of the facility. And there are regulations wrapped around weather. Sometimes weather can be a hot topic for many individuals when they're in an assisted living setting. This next slide talks about what treatment and care you should expect. As anywhere, you have the right to be treated with respect and dignity, and recognizing that you are someone that they should be talking to get some insight in terms of what, again, would you like. You have the right to receive treatment and care and services as you would like them. They should be what we would consider adequate and appropriate to meeting your care needs, as long as you are in the assisted living. They should be able to promote your interest in socialization, helping your emotional well-being, working on your physical and spiritual health as well. You do have the opportunity to be involved in creating your care plan or what is called a service plan, making sure that they're talking to you to see what should your day look like. You also have the ability to make sure that you're getting meals and snacks as you would normally, a breakfast meal, a lunch meal, a dinner meal, and then some snacks in between there. You have the right to be free from verbal, mental, and physical, and any other level of abuse. I know that may sound very like, of course, that's the norm. That should be expected. But this is something that we want everybody to know. You don't have to just maybe go along with things that you don't enjoy, or you don't have to be subjected to things that are harmful to you. You do have the right to refuse treatment and without repercussions. There shouldn't be any conversations wrapped around, well, if you don't do this, then we're not going to provide you with a meal. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to engage in activities. it shouldn't also be something that leads to a discharge from the facility. There should be lots of great conversations that are happening beforehand if there's information or things happening that seem like it's no longer a good fit for you in the facility, but you refusing to take treatment or be involved in any kind of activity shouldn't lead to just a discharge without there being good conversation on why these things are getting ready to happen or come down the pike. In assisted living, there's something called level of care, and how they are ascertaining what your needs are. It might be a LOC for short, as you'll see there in the PowerPoint. Levels of care typically do correspond to what the price points may be or the level of assistance that you would be needing. There are 3 of them. You have level 1, you have level 2, and you have level 3. Level 1 means the provider is authorized to take care of the lowest level of need that you may have as an individual. And it usually means that you're pretty independent. You don't really need that much, but you need maybe just some little checking in from time to time as you continue to manage your activities of daily living. Level 2 means that there's probably a moderate need to assist with your care and managing your activities of daily living throughout the course of the day. A little bit more checking in, cueing, and coaching, making sure that medication and care is being honored as you'd like it. Level 3 is the highest level. It usually means you need the bulk of assistance to manage your meals, to manage your bathing, to manage your dressing, and to manage your activities. There can be different price points for different levels of care that the facilities are licensed to provide. Some facilities may choose to be licensed at one level or the other, or they may choose to be licensed at the highest level of 3. So as you or your loved one is aging in place, there may not be the need to transition from one site to the other if the facility is licensed for the highest level of care, which would be level of 3, and you should need that. Many of the facilities in Baltimore County are licensed at level 3. However, if they are licensed at a different level and you need more, then the conversation of how to meet your needs will begin at that assisted living, and a couple of options could be put on the table to meet your needs. If it's there, or maybe transitioning to another site that might be available.
Lynn, if I
Yes.
can jump in right now, I have a question coming in. Who determines the level of care? And is that a conversation that's had with everyone involved to make that decision, or is it strictly from the facility?
That is a great question. So when a facility is getting licensed, they'll put in paperwork, and the paperwork will kind of share what their business plan is on what level they would like to be licensed as. And then as residents are admitted, the delegating nurse or the credentialed individual will do a assessment and screening of the resident. That assessment and screening tool will then identify what the needs are of the individual. It's kind of like the more boxes you check off that the person needs assisted with will probably determine, is it a level 1, which is a light level? Is it level 2, which is a moderate level? Or is it level 3, which is the heaviest level? So that credentialed individual usually has a nursing background with that screening tool that the state has authorized, will then identify what level of care the individual is coming in at. And every 6 months, the facility is mandated to do an assessment of an individual to see if they're still at the same level of care, if they're at a higher level of care, or if there's other things that they need to look at to put into the care plan for the successfulness of the resident who is living there. That does tend to go into a conversation with the resident and the resident support system after the evaluation is done. Generally, if there's going to be a change, because that change may impact the price point, the monthly fee that is charged, or it might impact if the resident needs to transition to another setting because that facility may not be a good fit anymore. Does that answer the question? Did I capture all the pieces?
I have a thumbs up, so you sure did. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So we've been talking a little bit about some of the ways that assisted livings might differ. That might be whether it's small, medium, or large facility. It may also differ from the staff that might be on site. Believe it or not, those state regulations that we referenced earlier, those give guidance to the credentials of the individuals at minimum that have to be on site. And it gives an opportunity for the facilities maybe to hire other staff that could be beneficial depending upon the needs of the individuals that are there. The one thing that I always like to make sure people are aware of is that the regulations don't require a nurse to be there 24 hours a day. There has to be a staff member, and that staff member is usually called a caregiver. The caregiver does have to have a certain level of knowledge, and it's usually a state-formed 80-hour training course. And then that individual, once they finish taking the training course, they are certified as a individual who would meet the minimum state's qualification to provide care. Some of them do have the discipline as a certified nursing assistant or a geriatric nursing assistant or a medicine aide. Some of the owners themselves do have nursing backgrounds or administrative backgrounds, but it is not mandatory for that staff person to have a nursing background just to take that 80-hour course. They do have to have a nurse that's affiliated with them, but that nurse does not have to be a day-to-day staff person. The regulations do allow that nursing staff credentials to come and do an evaluation of the residents every 30 to 45 days, and then to do an assessment twice a year. So that's where the staff locations come in. Location for us in Baltimore County, we have a little shy of 200 licensed assisted livings, and they are all throughout the county, east side, west side, centrally located. Some are in everyday houses that you pass in the neighborhood. Um, and you might not even know they're not required to hang a shingle outside that identifies them as an assisted living. Some are on large campuses or retirement communities. You may have heard of the Ericksons or the Oakcrest or Pickersgill or Broadmead or Masonic. They have assisted livings on site with them. And each larger campus that's a part of a retirement community, even though it is a part of that large system, they are still bound by the independent assisted living laws and guidelines and regulations. So they still have to abide by that, even if they are on those larger campuses. The fees can vary. You can have 2 or 3 assisted livings right in close proximity. One may charge, let's just say for an example, a fee of $1,500 a month. Another one might charge $2,000 a month, and another one might charge, say, $3,000 a month. It's all allowable. There's not a fee structure that says if you're level 1, you must offer this. If level 2, you must charge this. Level 3, you must charge that. As long as the facility is sharing and disclosing that information up front, that's all the state requires to process that it's a sound business plan. And there's also not a time frame on when they actually maybe increase their fees. Some facilities we know increase their fees on an annual basis, like once a year. Some increase their fees as they do an evaluation, and that might determine they need a higher level of care. Some automatically increase it seasonally, summer, spring, winter, and fall. If that's what they say they do in their business plan, the state sees that as an option to provide. So those are some of the pieces that I know don't sit well with individuals. Some of the assisted livings have private rooms. Most of them have semi-private where it's a roommate. Some of them even have 3 individuals in a room. Again, as long as they're sharing their business plan and their layout and they have adequate square footage and furniture for each individual in there, then those are allowable options. Sometimes you may see a price point that is higher, and that might reflect the fact that the person has a private or a single room at that point. Most facilities are private pay, meaning you bring your own exclusive income or source of income or sources of income, and that's what affords you the ability to manage the monthly costs in that assisted living. There are some new programs that have come along. They're not brand new, but there's still some people getting used to them. That might be the Medicaid waiver program, and that can help to offset services that's provided. It doesn't usually come with a stipend or a reduction in fee, but it might be a way to complement the private pay portion that the individual brings to the table. And then there's another program called Subsidized Assisted Living Program, and that's SALS for short. Now that is a almost a stipend that's matched to that person's again private income. So let's say that person had a private Social Security or source of income of $1,500, then the SALS stipend, which is about $780, maybe even $800, a little shy of $800, then that gets added on to that person's private income with the hopes that it just pushes them to give them a little more opportunity of assisted livings to pull from as options for living. Some assisted livings visiting hours can be varied. Any meal times can be varied. They're pretty traditional, but maybe breakfast is from say like a 7 to 10 hour in one site, and another site says it's only from 8 to 9. Again, as long as they put that in their business plan, that's something that's seen as an allowable option. This link here does allow people to see where licensed assisted livings are in the whole entire state of Maryland. I believe if you're looking for exclusively the ones that are in Baltimore County, that starts on about page 60 of this document. It does live on the licensing body's website. You kind of see their initials here. I'm circling it. It says OHCQ. That is short for the Office of Healthcare Quality. You may hear tomato, tomato, OHCQ, the Office of Healthcare Quality, the state, the surveyors, the regulators. They're all one and the same. The nice thing about this list, as I did share, is that it lists the entire state. So if you're moving or you want your loved one closer to another level of family members, you might be able to find somewhere that is licensed. The key thing about this is that anybody who's licensed should be on this list, or you're able to call and verify if the list is not updated at the time that you're looking to see if indeed a place is there. Once a place is licensed, then there is the opportunity to hold them accountable for the care and the admission, the price points, the level of concerns that anybody may have, or questions that might come up. If the facility is not licensed, but there was still a, I guess, arrangement that was made for admissions, then that becomes a private conversation on how to harness any concerns or complaints that might be. If the facility is sharing that they are licensed and you learn that through some process or looking at this, they're not actually licensed, then a complaint can go into the regulatory body, OHCQ, or the Ombudsman's program can assist with making that complaint to the regulatory body, and then the process of either holding them accountable for services they're providing in an unlicensed environment or get them to go through the proper licensing process from there. All right. Got lots of links to share. This link kind of takes everybody through some sample forms, and I'd like to share what some of those forms are because it might make the difference between understanding what's happening for you or your loved one, or who to ask questions to if things don't seem to be going very well. So I have the topic of sample weekly care notes, if that's important to get an idea of what the activities of daily living are being recorded, of what's happening for your loved one. The next one there is a uniform disclosure statement form. That is actually a really great document. It's about 7 or 8 pages in its entirety, and it kind of breaks down from pillar to post of what is the name of the assisted living that your loved one is admitted at. Who are the staff members that should be providing care throughout the course of the day? What is the service plan going to be made up of? What are things that are important to know about things that might cause discharge or a transfer? Who gets to be a part of making up the actual service plan? If you should have questions about what's included in the price point, what are all those things that are included? What are some of those things that are a la carte? And then lastly, if you do have a grievance or questions or concerns, who can you address that to in the facility? And how can you make that formal referral to the Office of Healthcare Quality, which is the oversight agency? Or how can you get connected to the Ombudsman Advocacy Program? The last thing in there is a sample service plan that I want to highlight. There's a few other things in there, but these are just 3 that I thought were important. The service plan / care plan is what did the facility say they were going to be providing to you as a level of care? What should you be holding them accountable for? How often should that be happening? Where should that be happening? Is it going to happen on site with staff or these contracted individuals that are coming in? And these also can be talking points to say, hey, maybe when the individual, you or your loved one first came in, we needed this, but now we need to change to that. So let's look at the old service plan / care plan, and let's see if there's some way that we can update it and move forward so we can keep meeting the needs of the resident. And some of that will dovetail when that biannual evaluation is done of the individual as well. But at any time, the service plan might be updated. You don't have to just wait for that formal time period, which is twice a year. There might be changes that are needed from a traumatic incident or accident or medical condition that the resident or your loved one has developed. It might happen because maybe the resident has got a spring in their step and they don't need as much assistance as they first needed when they came in there. So there's always the opportunity to address the service plan and look at it. I wanted to pull out the complaint form. Not many people get a chance to see an opportunity of what this form might look like. You always have the opportunity of handling the concerns directly on site with the individuals. But if for some reason you want the regulatory body to be involved, this is a sample of a form that can be filled out online by going to their website. It can be given verbally over the phone by calling the Office of Healthcare Quality directly. Or if you want to navigate with the Ombudsman's program to see if there's a level of advocacy that we can provide to problem solve before it goes to such a formal process of filling out the complaint form, the Ombudsman's program is able to do that free of charge, free, free, free. I know we don't hear that often, but we can try to open the lines of communication from an advocacy standpoint, help to share best practices that might address what the residents' concern is, and maybe even remind the facility of what the regulations do state. And that might be just enough to turn around any concern before you make a formal complaint, as you see here. All right, I'm whizzing through. I don't know if there's any
Lynn,
other questions. Yes,
quick,
ma'am.
quick question. If people would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do so?
So the best way, I hope I have at the end of this slide a telephone number to reach the program, but our program's phone number is 410-402 4200, pardon me. And the program is open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, which are core hours for the county. We do have a confidential voicemail that comes directly to the Ombudsman's program. So if you should need to leave a message, the Ombudsman exclusively will be addressing that concern. Our telephone number, just in case again, is 410-887-4200. We do have an email as well, and that is Ombudsman, OMBUDSMAN, at Baltimore County, one long word spelled out, md.gov. This slide walks us through a little bit about how do I pay for assisted livings, and we've talked a little bit about that already. Most of them are privately paid. You might be able to get connected to a long-term care medical assistance waiver program to offset services and see if there are ways to reduce what out-of-pocket fees that might be available. We did talk about the subsidy program. There's a little language here that highlights what are some of the parameters of the subsidy program. Many of the assisted livings within our catchment area and our license in Baltimore County, a little shy of 200, those subsidy facilities have a carve out. I think there's about 25 facilities right now that are subsidized. So out of a little shy of 225 of them might be options that are subsidy sites, and about 30 of them are Medicaid waiver sites, and then the rest of them are your traditional assisted livings where private pay is going to be the standard fee of that. Let's see. This slide does go over a little bit more of the eligibility guidelines for the SALS program, so I should highlight that. It's not eligibility for all assisted livings, but just if you want to become attached to the subsidy option there. For those that are not wanting to be attached to subsidy or Medicaid waiver, as long as you are, believe it or not, 18 and older, you have the opportunity to be seen as an eligible candidate for an assisted living. The assisted living itself may have parameters in that uniform disclosure form that I talked about for admission criteria, but most of the time it's the level of assistance that you need that's determined by the evaluation upon entry that helps them to know if you're going to be a good candidate for that assisted living. Most individuals are older adults, but you don't have to be an older adult. You really just have to have that level of assistance need. A little bit more information about benefits and services from subsidy. The subsidy comes in the form of direct financial assistance, and it does go directly to the assisted living. It doesn't come to the person. And the amount is down there, $770. So I know I may have said up to $800, but it's actually $770. And it is something that the provider receives on top of the private pay portion that the individual will be has at their discretion to share. I did make it to a slide that has some contact information. There are 5 offices for the Ombudsman's program. We have a Towson office, a Parkville office, Catonsville office, and the Randallstown office. And as of today, I can add to this slide. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Sorry, everybody. Oh my goodness gracious. I've taken us off on a tangent. I can share that we're adding our our Dundalk office. So we do have an office in Dundalk that's up and running right now. And there is our program number. I'm not sure if there are any other questions that anybody may have or anything from the caregiver program that you might want me to share a little more on.
Lynn, I have a question. What kind of complaints would the Ombudsman program handle?
That is a good question. Any level of concern that someone may have or question about being admitted in assisted living could range from meals, could range to how care is being provided. It could range to not feeling as though that they're happy about the activities that are happening throughout the course of the day. Could be roommate issues. It could be the qualifications of the staff, feeling as though you're not really getting the best care. It could be a lack of communication. You might want to talk about your service plan, but no one's talking to you and they're talking about you to others and not necessarily to you. It could be about medication disbursement or changes that they want to have maybe uplifted that they haven't seen happen yet to their medication or the level of care. It could be that they want to have some adaptive devices or different levels of care provided, and they haven't really seen the connectivity to have maybe an outside resource come in or them go to an outside resource. So we help broker that conversation. It could be that they're looking to get a better handle on benefits that they might be entitled to that might make things a little bit more comfortable or successful for them at the assisted living as well. One of the things that I failed to mention is that the program itself does do routine access visits to all of the licensed assisted livings. So sometimes we know that residents may not know exactly how to reach us. and may not ever even heard of the Ombudsman's program. We try to make those visits so we're out and about saying hello. There are mandatory posting signs that do showcase our program's name and our program's telephone number, but sometimes those visits kind of bring us to life so people have the opportunity to know how to reach out to us. Anything else, caregivers? If I didn't mention, getting in contact with the Ombudsman's program can be free. You don't have to pay for our services. We can work with someone from a confidential or anonymous standpoint. Residents and family, and maybe even facilities can reach out to us and brainstorm any questions or concerns that they may have. It may not always be a problem. It might be, how do we get a different type of program or provider to come and network with our facility? How can we arrange maybe a shopping trip in a group segment? How can we go to a play or a movie? So everything doesn't have to be a complaint in order to engage with the Ombudsman. Or there might be some new information that's on the horizon about assisted living, and we can go out and do a little educational presentation to the staff or the residents about what's happening that might be connected to assisted living that they want to learn more about. So we kind of look at opportunities to engage, and they don't always have to be complaint or problem driven.
Thank you so much for that, Lynn. It's definitely very informative. I even learned some stuff myself.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. Even if people are like, I'm just beginning my journey and I don't have a loved one there now, I don't have much experience with it, feel free to call the program and maybe we can help dispel some of the myths or put some of your questions into perspective. We do have some resource information that we can either pop in the mail or send electronic links to as well. And that might spur some more questions that we might be able to walk through. Or you may have gone on a site visit to a facility and they gave some information and you don't know what it quite means. Give us a call. We can kind of walk through, maybe does it have a meaning exclusively for the facility? Is it something that's wrapped around regulations, or is it something maybe new that they're doing that really helps to emphasize how they want to provide their assisted living services?
You can reach out to caregivers at baltimorecountymd.gov, or you could give us a call at 410-887-4724. And again, I'm Morgan Brown, so if anyone has